Evening guys and girls, and welcome to Eng Gaming. Today we are going to be taking a look at the new class changes for the Druid. And before we get into it and before we take a look at all the different specs that they have, because they have the most out of any others, we want to quickly take a look at something new to the Druid playstyle called affinities. And essentially this is going to be replacing the Heart of the Wild. And basically there will be a new affinity for each of the different specs. However, whatever spec you're in, you don't have to simply use that affinity. You can trade between all of them, and essentially it will change the way that you play your game. Firstly, we have the Balance affinity, which is Astral Influence, increases the range of all spells, abilities and auto attacks by 5 yards. Then we have the Feral affinity, which is Feline Swiftness and increases movement speed by 15%. Then we have the Guardian affinity, Thick Hide, reduces all damage taken by 10%. And then we have the Restoration affinity, Ysera's Gift, constantly heals the Druid or allies when the Druid is at full health. Unlike Heart of the Wild, affinities are not temporary buffs. This enhanced access to an off-spec delivered through a cleaner game mechanic empowers Druids of any specialization to make interesting situational combat decisions. So as far as I understand it, you'll be able to switch between these affinities at any time, and they should be like 1 second costs, or probably just instant costs, and so that they can slightly change your gameplay and use different abilities while you're in any of the different specs. So if you want to quickly change to cat form halfway through a game, you can change to Feral affinity, and that will improve your cat form slightly while you're playing as it. But enough about that, let's get into the specs and see all the different changes that they are having and go through all of their core abilities. And we're going to start off obviously with the Balanced Druids, and Blizzard have felt that Balanced Druids have had a variety of cyclical, if that's a correct word, rotations over the years. The core design problem in all of these cycles is they've kind of forced the players to have to constantly watch their UI, and the casting of their spells has to be largely in predetermined orders. And with the Legion design, what they've decided to do was try to focus on a more flexible combat experience so that you can use your abilities as you'd like, and each one will have a kind of specific purpose to it. The Eclipse Bar has been completely replaced by an Astral Power resource, which is built and spent and provides a platform for abilities to create interesting, engaging and powerful effects. That's their words, not mine. Balanced gameplay will center around maintaining your dots, in generating your astral power with a mixture of Lunar Strike and Solar Wrath, and spending your astral power on either Star Surge or Star Fall. So let's just jump straight in and check out their core abilities. Firstly, we have Moonfire, which is 45 yard range and instant. A quick beam of lunar light burns an enemy for minor arcane damage, and then an additional strong arcane damage over 18 seconds, and it's usable while you're in bear form as well. Then we have Sunfire, which is 45 yard range instant. Quick beam of solar light burns an enemy for minor nature damage, and then an additional strong nature damage over 14 seconds to the primary targets and all enemies within 5 yards. Then we have Lunar Strike, which is 45 yard range and a 2.5 second cast time. Call down a strike of lunar energy, causing strong arcane damage to the target and minor arcane damage to all other enemies within 5 yards, and this will generate you 15 astral power. Then we have Solar Wrath, which is a 45 yard range and a 1.5 second cast. Hurl a ball of solar energy at the target, dealing moderate nature damage, and this is also going to generate you 9 astral power. Then we have Star Surge, which is one of the first abilities that's going to cost you astral power, 40 of it at that. 45 yard range and instant. Launch a surge of stellar energies at the target, dealing massive astral damage. Also grants you lunar and solar empowerments, which increases the damage of your next Lunar Strike or Solar Wrath by 30% respectively. You can accumulate up to 3 of each empowerment. Then we have Starfall, 60 astral power, 45 yard range and instant. Calls down waves of falling stars that damage enemies at the target location. Deals strong astral damage over 8 seconds. Enemies in your Starfall take 30% additional damage from your Moonfire and Sunfire. And then the Mastery Starlight increases the damage of Starfall and Star Surge and the effect of the empowerments that they grant by an additional 30% with Mastery from typical gear. And then of course we do have a balance specific talent which is called Blessing of the Ancients. It's an instant, and what happens is you gain a blessing of the Ancients, activating or swapping between one of the two following beneficial effects. You get the Blessing of Elune, increases astral power generated by Solar Wrath and Lunar Strike by 50%, and then you get the Blessing of Anshe, which grants 3 astral power every 2 seconds. So you'll be basically swapping between those two depending on how your gameplay differs and which one will work the best for you to gain astral power. Not much to say about these changes. The one thing I will say is that firstly is that with the Druid, the balanced Druids gameplay style, I've always felt that they are very much in the center of their own spec, and very much you feel like you are a balanced Druid when you are in the spec. And what the main changes that we are seeing here is very much to stop the whole you are watching, and so far it seems, at least I hope, that will be a huge change, and it will not feel as if you're watching your action bars the entire time and waiting for those different things to go off. I can't speak as to whether these will change your for a more flexible game style, but we'll have to see when if any of us manage to get into the beta. As it comes to feral druids, feral have always been, in my opinion, very much centered inside of their own mythology and their own style. They are very much a cat trying to kill stuff, and all the abilities and everything, really, you can obviously feel it when you play the class. However, there have been 1 or 2 changes. For instance, when they made Savage Roar optional in the talent tree and Warlords, to them, they think that it worked out quite well and it opened up gameplay opportunities. However, what they're doing is they're taking this a little bit forward to flip it, further, that is, to flip it around. Savage Roar is now one of talent choice matched against 2 compelling alternatives that cater to different playstyles, so we should see seeing some differences with that. Let's quickly go through the core abilities, even though not that much has changed. Shred, 40 energy, melee range instant. Shred the target, causing moderate physical damage to the target and awards 1 combo point. Damage increased by 20% against bleed targets. While stealth, Shred deals 20% increased damage and has double the chance to critically strike. Then we have Rake, 35 energy. Rake the target for minor bleed damage and an additional strong bleed damage over 15 seconds, reduces the target's movement speed by 50% for 12 seconds, and of course awards 1 combo point, while Stealth Rake will also stun the target for 4 seconds. And then we have Rip, 30 energy, and it will consume 1 to 5 combo points. Finishing move that causes massive bleed damage over 24 seconds. Damage increases per combo point, nothing really new there. And then we have Ferocious Bite, 25 energy and 1 to 5 combo points. Finishing move that causes damage per combo point and consumes up to 25 additional energy to increase damage up to 100%. When used on targets below 25% health, Ferocious Bite will also refresh the duration of your Rip on the target. Critical strike chances doubled against bleeding targets. Then we have their first passive, Omen of Clarity. Your auto attacks have a chance to reduce the energy cost of your next cat form ability by 100%, which sounds really cool. And then we have Primal Fury, another passive. You gain an additional combo point when you critically strike with a combo generating attack. Damage over time cannot trigger this effect, obviously. And then we have the Mastery Razor Claws. Increases the damage done by your cat form bleed abilities by 60% with Mastery from typical gear. And then a quick look at a feral specific talent. We have Jagged Wounds, a passive. Your Rip, Rake and Thrash abilities deal the same damage as normal, but in 30% less time, which is really cool. Not much to say about the feral gameplay, as it doesn't seem to be changing that much. Of course, the talents are going to be playing quite a lot of a role in this, and I do expect us to see some much more unique and different gameplay coming out once we have access to these talents and see how they can change our different game style. At least it should be something similar, if not exactly like how they're doing with the warrior, where most of the talents change huge amounts of the gameplay. So we'll just have to wait for the beta and see how it comes out. And now on to the Guardian Druid. They've always thought that the Guardian Druid has a lot of powerful themes behind it. However, they think that they've been falling short of actually delivering on those themes, especially seen as Guardian Druid's a big gigantic bear, that is, has mainly been just dodging and had a strong emphasis on avoidance And so unlike any other tank, it's more sort of just jumping around and getting out of the way, and that doesn't really seem well with the image of a tough and sturdy bear. What they want to do is make Guardian Druids survive through their sheer tenacity, thick hide, massive resilience, and strong regeneration. To this end, they've redesigned several parts of the Druid compatibility toolkit to instead focus on these core defensive ideas like health, armor, mitigation, and regeneration, while de-emphasizing like dodge abilities. But now let's look at their core abilities. Firstly, they have a Mangle, which is melee range and instant. The Mangle the target for strong physical damage, reducing the target's movement speed by 50% for 12 seconds, deals 20% additional damage against bleeding targets, and generates you 5 rage. Then we have Lacerate, melee range and instant with a 3-second cooldown. Lacerates the enemy target, dealing moderate bleed damage and an additional moderate bleed damage over 15 seconds, and the stacks up to 3 times. Lacerate has a 25% chance to reset the cooldown on Mangle. Then we have Thrash, instant 6-second cooldown. Strike all enemies within 8 yards, dealing minor bleed damage and applying Lacerate for an additional moderate bleed damage over 15 seconds. Then we have Moonfire, 40-yard range and instant. A quick beam of lunar light burns the enemy target for minor arcane damage, and then an additional strong arcane damage over 12 seconds. And this is usable while in bear form. However, that's enough about the offensive abilities. Let's take a look at the defensive abilities. Firstly, we have Iron Fur, which costs 40 rage and it is instant. It increases armor by 100% for 6 seconds. Multiple uses of this ability may overlap, which sounds like it could be stacking a bit there. Then we have Mark of Ursol, which is 40 rage and instant. Reduces magic damage taken by 30% for 6 seconds. No talk of a cooldown, so there is a chance that maybe it's stacking and they just didn't include it in the breakdown. However, I don't think it's likely. Then we have Frenzied Regeneration, 10 rage, instant, 20-second recharge, and 2 charges on it. Heals you for 100% of all damage taken in the last 6 seconds over 6 seconds, minimum of 5% of maximum health. Then we have the new mastery. Nature's Guardian increases your maximum health and healing received by 40% with mastery from typical gear, and it also increases your attack power by 20% with mastery from typical gear. And then of course we have the Guardian specific talent, which is called Rend and Tear. It's a passive, and your Lacerate Bleed now also reduces the target's damage done to you and increases damage you do to the target by 3% per stack. Overall, for the Guardian Druid, it looks very much like they are holding true to their promises of a much more sturdy animal that will simply take the damage, and from looking at the defensive abilities, they're really delivering on that, and it is really cool to see, especially with the mastery, with the maximum health and healing. And so basically they are doing what they said they would do. Hey, what do you know, Blizzard did that for once. Yay. And then of the 4 specs, the one that's seeing the least changes is the Restoration Druid. They basically said that there's a lot of cohesive flavor to love about how the Restoration Druid plays out, and as a result they wanted to make very, very minimal changes. Their mastery, they think, had the most room for improvement, having become basically just a passive effect, so they've redesigned it to emphasize layering, healing over time effects, favoring more engaging gameplay, while also catering to the Restoration themes. So let's take a look at the core abilities. Firstly, we have the Mastery, which is Harmony. Your healing is increased by 10% for each of your Restoration heal over time effects on the target. Then we have Healing Touch, 2% mana, 40-yard range, heals a friendly target for a moderate amount. Then we have Regrowth, 3.7% mana, 40-yard range, and a 1.5 second cast time. Heals a friendly target for a moderate amount and another minor amount over 12 seconds. Regrowth has a 60% chance to increase 6% increased chance for a critical effect. Then we have Rejuvenation, 1.9% mana, and it heals the target for a moderate amount of damage over 15 seconds. Life Bloom, 2% mana, heals the target for a moderate amount of damage over 10 seconds. When Life Bloom expires or is dispelled, the target is instantly healed for a moderate amount. Life Bloom can be active only on one target at a time. Then we have Efflorescence, 4.3% mana, grow Healing Blossom at the targeted location, restoring a moderate amount of health to 3 injured allies within 10 yards every 2 seconds for 30 seconds. Only one Efflorescence can be placed at a time. Then we have Swift Mend, 1.6% mana, 40-yard range, instantly heals a friendly target for a large amount. And then we have Wild Growth, 7.5% mana, 40 yard range, 1.5 second cast, 10 second cooldown. Heals up to 6 injured allies within 30 yards of the target for a moderate amount over 7 seconds. Healing amount starts high and declines over the duration. Then we have the first passive, Living Seed. When you critically heal a target with the direct healing portion of Swift Mend, Regrowth or Healing Touch, you plant a Living Seed on the target. When the target is next attacked, the Living Seed will bloom and heal for 50% of the initial amount healed. Then we have another passive called Omen of Clarity. Your periodic healing from Life Bloom has a 4% chance to cause you to enter a clear casting state, causing your next regrowth to be completely free. And then of course, taking a look at a restoration specific talent, we have Flourish, which is instant with a 1 minute cooldown. Extend the duration of all of your heal over time effects on the target on friendly targets within 60 yards by 10 seconds. Not much to say about the Restoration Druid, as it seems to only be seeing very slight changes. However, of course, if you've got a problem with any of these changes, please post it in the comments below, so let me know what kind of issues you have with them, because let's face it, this is the internet, somebody's going to have an issue with something. So all in all, I'm looking on quite a lot of the changes that have happened to the Druid quite favorably. I really enjoy the new style that they're going to be putting on with the Guardian Druid, and it definitely delivers a lot more to their own gameplay style. The changes to balance are quite favorable, and I do like the idea of their new resource. And for Feral, it seems that they are doing some pretty cool design changes, and especially opening up for a lot more changes with the talent system that we'll be seeing in Legion. And Restoration, not much is happening, however there are small things here and there. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please rate a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Cheers.